Hello everyone, my name is Anastasia and I'm glad to welcome you all to the fourth practical session where we solve tasks without involving programming. Today we are going to see how to configure the automation that saves time for people who are involved into working out of email communication. Today we are going to verify email address by sending it to the external email verification service, and based on the results of those verification, we either send request for consent and create a data privacy ticket or create task for manual verification. So let's start immediately. All I need is my browser, so I open it, and here we have a sugar. It's clean sugar without any customizations, and also I'll need a configuration tool which located by link logicbuilder.integrascrm.com. So here I'm just sign in, and if you do not have credentials, you just may perform a quick sign up form. Then I click on sign in and I'm in, and I can start work here and do my task. But previously I need to do two small steps. First of all, I need to return to Sugar and register external API platform so that I allow Logic Builder to connect to Sugar to read all metadata, which we are talking about a bit later. So in admin section, I go to the configure API platforms, and I already added Logic Builder, but here I just can type Logic Builder, click add and save. So that when I return to Logic Builder, I will connect from Logic Builder to Sugar. I can do this in the top call from the menu flowchart section, the section import sugar metadata. Here I will connect to my sugar in order to read metadata, means what module sugar has, what fields are in those models, and so on, to work with all this stuff here in Logic Builder. So I just put sugar URL and login and password of sugar user and click import. I suggest to use admin access to Sugar because Logic Builder respects role restrictions. That means that if my user do not have access to, for example, accounts module, I won't be able to work with it here in Logic Builder as well. So now we are connected to Sugar and we can start to configure our logic. Basically, it's a visual designer tool. So here in this grid, which is called workspace, we are going to step by step selecting bricks, connect with each other, build a whole logic which brings us to resolve task. So all bricks are actually called operators, and they are located in toolbox section from menu. I expand this option, and here we have all operators which perform some functions. For example, first of all, we need to start from something. So we need to define which event brings our logic to execute, should call to our logic. Let's recall, we want to verify email and perform further steps when new lead entered manually in the system. So our event is simple lead creation. As a start point, Logic Builder have two operators. Let's scroll down a little bit, and they are called onDataChange and onLinkChange here. onDataChange means that our logic executes when something changes in record. For example, when status changes or so on, or when the record is created. And the second one, onLinkChange, works when relationship between two records added or removed. For example, when contact added to account or removed from account. As we need to work with newly created records, let's choose onDataChange. Let's take a closer look. I zoom in a little bit with my scroll. So each operator has a name on the top of it, and it can bring you an idea what this particular operator does. Also, operators has some inputs on the left side and outputs on the right side. These inputs and outputs are called actually ports, and as you may notice, they are different shapes and colors as well. Let's let's see how it works further. But firstly, we need to define in this operators two things. First of all, we need to define a module, changes in which should fires our logic. It's leads module. Nothing surprise here. Leads. And in event type, we define when our logic executes, before the record is saved or after that. Let's choose after save. So we point a start element here. We start to work when something in lead changes. Let's take a closer look on our outputs. Oh, by the way, in some operators there is an I button, and if you click on it, you will have a quick some kind of tutorial which describes what this operator does, what it has as input and as output. So let's return to our operator. As output, we have here, first of all, it's white port, triangular shaped, and it port that connects operators each other in special order. So by you link operators with each other using this port to define the order of operators execution. The next one ports are entity and previous values. So here in these ports located the lead entity, which is going to be saved. For example, let's assume this example, user opened the lead record and changed its status from new to assigned. So here in entity output port, we will have a lead record with value assigned in status. In previous values, we have an lead as well, but as it was before someone or something changed values in lead. So if we return to the example, here we have a lead with status new. Is new port is a Boolean port, so it has value true or false. It has true when lead is new or false when it is not. And finally, there is a square-shaped port, which says that here we have several items. So when ports are circle, there is one item there. For example, here in is new, it is true or false. In previous values, here is the whole entity. And in change fields, there are set of fields that was changed. So for example, if user opened a lead record, changed status and description, here in change fields port, we will have two fields. It's description and status. So now we need to check something. First of all, we need to verify that our lead is new. So it's lead creation process. And the second one thing that we need to check, as we are going to check email address in external verification service, I think it's better if we check whether there is at all email address in lead. So let's check the address firstly. We can do this in several ways. For example, we can get value from email one field from leads, or we can go via relationship to get primary email address via relationship. So when you want to retrieve some number of entities that are related to your target entity, you use the operator retrieve related entities. So how it named and this is what this operator does. For example, if you want to retrieve all contacts that are related to your account, you get account, and then by retrieve related entities, you select here the name of the relationship that you are looking for. For example, it may be contacts. And now you may see that it's empty because we do not specify the entity here. We need to input our lead here. So I simply grab lead from here and input here. And now in link name we have the name of all relationships that we have with leads. And we are looking for a relationship that is called email addresses prime. So, and also we need to connect operators which is each other. So first we have on data change, and second we have retrieve related entities. This is the order of this operator's execution. As outputs, we have here also several different outputs. First of all, in entities, we have a set of all entities that was found by this relationship. So, for example, if you are looking for related to account contacts, and there are 5 contacts, here you will have all these 5 contact entities. And in entities number, obviously, you will have the number of all these entities. So, for example, it will be 5. And in single entity, you have only one entity. And we are going to use this port today because I believe it may be only one primary address for our lead. But for now, we need to put a criteria that there are at least one email address for this lead. So I'm going to use output port entities number and compare value in this port with some number. For example, let me say that I want to check that entities number does not equal to the number 0. So to input some constants in logic builder, strings, text, numbers, drop down the constants category, and here you choose what type of constant you're looking for. For example, we want to compare entities number with 0 value. 0 is number, so simply pick up number constant and define 0 here. And this is our B value. And we say that entities number doesn't equal to 0. This is the first condition. And we have one more. We need to be sure that lead is not new. Is new. So we need to combine these two conditions. For combining, there are operators like and or. And now we will use and, because we need to say that there are at least one primary email address and the record is new. I zoom out, pick up here value from this port and input it in AND operator. So now we build a condition, a criteria with two criteria. And now we need to put this condition somewhere. So when you want to evaluate any conditions, check some criteria, you use the operator branch. It's called branch. Let me put it on our canvas. And here branch divides your flow. As you may see, there are 2 output flows ports. So thanks to this operator, you can divide your flow on 2 paths based on the conditions that you input here. So we put the result of this, of combining of these 2 criteria here, and link this operator to the previous one, simply like this. So what we have done we said that when something changes in lead, we check that lead has at least one email address and the lead is new. So now we need to go through path and perform what we said earlier. So firstly, we need to send this email address to external email verification service. There are a bunch of such services. For this example, for today's showcase, I'll use neverbounce.com. It has API so that I am able to send something there. You can send external requests from building your logic in Logic Builder thanks to some bunch of operators that are located. Let me scroll a little bit from all very old operators here. This is REST category. And there are a bunch of operators that perform to work with external services. So when you want to send a request to some external REST API, you can do this using these operators. So the king of these operators is operator called REST client. REST client is designed for sending HTTP requests to web server and following response processing. Let's take a closer look on it and dive a little bit in some theory with this operator. I just move it a little bit far away and zoom in on it. So what we have here, in URL, the link to REST API should be specified. Then the method should be defined, like get, post, and so on. You may see all methods that we are currently would work with on the screen. You simply pick up one from this list. Then you have a possibility to define a headers here, and headers can be specified using name-value pairs. And then these headers can be formed using operators from structure category. Let me quickly show you how you can do this. So we return to our menu and scroll a little bit lower. Here we have structure. So when you want to pass headers to your request, you firstly create a structure, put operator create a structure, and in structure scheme, you need to define the name of a list of headers that will be included in your request. For example, it defined in structure scheme operator, yes. And you define here the part of pair name. For example, content type. This is common header. So then you need to put value to this name, and you can do this by using operator set structure field. So you input your structure here and define select content type, and then using constant operator, it's on the top. We use, for example, string constant, and you define the value of this header, for example, application JSON, and put it here. So this is actually four operators to define the headers, and finally to include it to your request, you need to convert it using just operator get HTTP headers from structure. Let me zoom out. So simply input your structure here, which you format, and the result input in REST client, so that you will define the headers for your request. Then the query parameters defined in the same way as I done just for headers, but when you are going to pass these parameters to your REST, REST API, you will need to convert it simply using operator get REST parameters from structure. Or the second way as how you can build your parameters is by combining string constants and concatenating it, and then the result you input in sorry, not this, we just already see this, get REST parameters from string. So here you input the result of concatenation of several strings and input it into query parameters. So we talk about headers, parameters, and it's time to talk about authentication. And there is special port for it, of course. And the authentication can be defined in three ways. By operators located here in REST section. It's basic HTTP. Sorry, it's a little mess here. Let me remove unnecessary operators. I just select all of them with my left button and delete items. Okay. So for talking about authentication, there are basic HTTP or Auth2, and if you have a token on your hand, you can use this operator for authentication. And finally, you may define a proxy settings if you need one to request to REST API. You may use your Sugar proxy settings, or you may define them here in Logic Builder direct. So it was a little bit of theory, how to work with it. And now let's see how it works in practice. And as well, I will tell you a little bit about, not a little bit actually, I will tell you about responses and how handle these responses. So first of all, I think I need to navigate to this external service that to which I'm going to send a request and look at the API. Look to the API. So there are several requests that can be sent. For example, if we want to verify a whole list, let's see an example. So here you have the you must define URL, of course, and here is a header that I showed you in theory how can be defined, and all here are parameters that also I showed you how to define. But today I'm going to verify only one email. So let's look what documentation say to us. And we see that here we have a simple link where all parameters are defined in this link. And I'm going to use it. So I just copy this link. I will need it. And return to Logic Builder. So I need to set this link in the URL. But there are two parameters. First of all, it's API key. And second, it's an email address that I want to verify. So I will use a string concatenation, and as part of strings, I will use a constant from this string, and part of them will be, actually it will be an email address, which I grabbed directly from the lead record. Let's see this. So I said that I want to use a concatenation, so I put a little bit this operator aside. And looking for operators that concatenate strings. So I find concatenate strings. Yep. And here I will define the strings that I want to combine into one. I will use a constant named string, pick up it, put it here. I have no enough space. Let me just a little bit move it. So I passed here that URL that I've copied from API documentation. See, this is a link. This is a link, and here I need to input APK. So what I'm going to do? I input one more string. I remove from this one everything, and input here. So he will be API key. And also I need to remove this one into next string and remove this. And finally, as an email, I will use email from my lead. So I remove this because it's variable. I concatenate it, these all strings into one string. And as last parameter here, I need to grab value of email address from lead. Where can I get it? Let's return a little bit for beginning. Here we retrieve all email addresses by this relationship. So here must be only one primary email address. And when I want to get values into from fields, I use operator get entity attributes. It's empty now, but as soon as I define the entity that I'm looking for, here I'll have all fields from this entity, and I'm looking for email address, and I input it here. And result, I input in URL. So here I will have the link that are described here in documentation, never bounce documentation. Just one small thing that I need to define API key. I'm just copy pasted. So in order to show you finally how this thing works in the end. So then I need to combine to define the order of operator execution. So when we define all checks, when they are true, both of them or both of these criteria are true, the lead is new and it has one email primary address, I send a request to Neverbounce to check my email address. And I need to handle a response from this verification service. And what we have in this operator as outputs. So first of all, you get the result code here. For example, it's 200 is okay, 404 not found, and so on. And a response contains the result of call from REST API. And speaking about of the body of the response, currently we can handle only JSON response. So let's return for a second to the external verification tool to see how they perform response. So we switch to this service and let's look the response. So here is the response. It returns several parameters like status, result, and so on. Actually, we are interested in result, whether it's valid or not. So we know that we have a parameter result which contains the value that we are looking for. Let's return to Logic Builder, and we need to handle this response. And for this, we have a special operator located in JSON category, and actually it calls get structure from JSON. So what it does actually, so you simply put response here because we are sure that it is JSON, and here in scheme you can define all parameters that you need to work with further. For example, we return here what the parameters have: status, result, flags, and so on. Actually, we do not need, for example, status and flags. We just need the result. So in Logic Builder, I return to Logic Builder. In scheme, I define that I'm looking for, I define that I need to work with a parameter called result. Let me just check that I've typed it correctly. Here I have result. Let me just copy paste to make 100% sure. And result. Okay. So we get we create the structure and put that this structure has only one name. Actually, that what we need is result. And now we need to evaluate it. How we can do this? Again, we have a criteria, so we will use branch operator. Always when we want to check something, we use branch to divide our flow. So let's connect with previous one. And now we need to evaluate value in this result and check whether it contains valid. When we want to get something from structure, we use operator that the name get structure fields, and put structure here, and here is our result. Now we need to compare value in this field, which actually is a handled response from REST API, with constant, for example, constant valid, if I remember correctly, valid, yes. And put the result of this comparison into a condition. And when we send email to the verification service and we get a response, and when it is not valid, so it may be invalid, it may be catch-all, there are several answers, but let's assume that we are looking only for valid. So when it is not valid, so when there will be false here, we want to create a task for manager to manual evaluation of entered data. For this, let's actually proceed to create a task. When we want to create some entity, we use operators that call create entity. And here we define a module record to which we want to create. And as I said, I want to create a task and input task here. And I connect with previous one operator, its branch, and it only works when the result is not valid. Any result, but not valid. Valid. So we create entity, but we need not only create, but set some values into its fields. And when we want to set some values into fields, we use set entity attributes operator. And as well as with previous sum operators, we have nothing here, but as soon as I define entity that fields of which I want to set values, here we have all fields of our task. And let's think what we want to set. For example, we want to set subject, I believe, yes? For subject, we will use text that we define here in Logic Builder. So it's a constant string. And here, let's say I want to say for manager, please check email manually, for example, something like this. Then for our task, I think we need to have start date, for example, and we want to have a due date. For start date, for dates actually we can use operators which are located in date category. For example, current date returns the current date, and we put this value into start date. And as due date, we want 5 days starting from current date. So I use operator date add here, date add, put current value as a start point, and to start point I want to add 5 days and put this as due date. And also I want to put aside a little bit. So we have subject, start date, due date. Let's say we want to set a priority for this task. And let's say we want to set a high priority for this task. We know that task priority is a drop-down. So again, we return to constants category operators, and we have here a drop-down value, constant. Let's put it and move it here. And in first line, you need to choose what drop-down you are looking for. We are looking something with task status, priority DOM, and we want to define high priority for this task. Then I think we need to define, for example, a status. And status is this, set it in the same way. We just put drop down constant, and we need to look for task status and say it will be, for example, not start, and it put its value into status field. What we have in task, I think, let's define a description for task. So we choose a field description, And let's say we want to output for manager the result that was returned for this verification service. How we can do this? Let me put a little bit this operator. So I want again use string concatenation. I want to combine some static text that I've input here in Logic Builder with some values that was returned from external service. So again, I choose my operator concatenate strings, and the first string will be a static text. So let's choose string and input text here. For example, the address, the address. Then we want to output what address. Let's grab it from lead. We need to zoom out quite a bit and return for the beginning of our logic where we work with lead. So we work with lead only here on the very beginning. And now we want to grab an email address. So here, sorry, is our email address because we get it by relationship. So I put select here this email address and output it here in concatenation. So what would be the address? For example, someaddress.com. Then I want to again use static text. I believe we need to put it a little bit down because we have a quite mess here. So the address, some address, was defined as, and we want to get a result from our email verification service. So let's return again where we have this result. Here we read this result and we grab it here and input it in concatenation. And finally, let's use one more static text. For example, please check at all and input it here. And the result of this concatenation, it will be only one string, but with field parameters, and we input it in description. And finally, what we need to set in our task is who is assigned to this task. So we use assigned user ID field, and let's say it must be the same user as assigned to our lead. So for now, I will close this toolbox section by clicking in the menu on it, zoom out, and return for the beginning because our lead entity is only here on beginning, and zoom in. And also I can call to the context menu by click right button, and here I have the opportunity to select operators. So I need again get entity attributes. And now I define lead here, and I'm looking for assigned user ID. Here it is. So let's move this operator somewhere here, for example, and assigned user we drag here in assigned user ID. And of course, we need to connect operators with each other. So we defined values for our new task, and now we need to save our record. The same as you do in Sugar, you open record, define some fields, you need to press save button. So I use operator save entity and put it here. And I say that I want to save my newly created task. And finally, last thing about this task, I want that the task was related to lead. So I use when I want to relate two entities between each other, there is an operator which is called link entities. So I put it here. I said that after saving, I want a link. And here we need to find what to what we are going to link. So we want lead here. Let's again return to the beginning of our flowchart to get lead record. Here it is, leads. And put our lead through all our logic here in object entity, and subject is our task, and automatically link name inputted here because it's actually only one relationship between these two modules, so nothing to choose here. And our task should be ready. Let's zoom out a little bit. So what we have, we checked email address, we handle a response from this external verification service, and when the result is not valid, we are going through false control flow. Actually, it calls this white link called control flow. So we go through false and create task with some fields, and this task will relate to lead. But what we are going to do if the result is valid? For this, we can send immediately consent to our lead. For this, when you want to send in a mail, you may use operator which is called send email. Send email. Put it here and define all necessary parameters here. For example, to whom you want send this email. It's our email that we already verified. So let's just go back a little bit and grab our email address and input it into name. We want to set a name of our lead. So let's return a little bit. Here we have, if you remember, the fields from lead record. So let's choose name here and input it into name input port. Then we can define a subject. It must be something good, but let's imagine something. Do we want receive news from us? Something like this. And we want to send a beautiful body of his email. For this, we previously defined a template in Sugar, so I use get HTML. Sorry, what's wrong? Let's look via HTML. Yes, so we pick up get HTML text from template. Define a template. I have only one consent request, and I have a parameter, a variable name here, and I want to fill this variable with lead name. So you know the lead received email like hi Anastasia, and so on is text. So we put HTML here in text, and I think we already filled everything. So when our email address is valid, we immediately send a consent. And also I suggest to open a data privacy ticket in order to gathering this consent. So open data privacy ticket is creating a record. So we again, as we already done for task, let's do this one more time, but for now we are going to create data privacy record. So create entity operator, put here, which we select a module record in which we are going to create its data privacy, connect operators with each other to define an order of operators execution, and then we define a fields for our newly created record. We use operator set entity attributes because we want to set values into attributes, and in the same way as we done for task, let's set values into data privacy ticket fields. For subject, we, for example, choose consent request. What it has some type. Obviously, we want to set type, and type it is a drop down. For drop down data privacy type DOM, and let's choose consent to process, I believe, and then we want to choose the due date. So, for example, we have 30 days to gain the consent. So we consent. So we again want to work with data as we done before. We want to get current date, for example, current date, and add to current date 30 days, for example, 30 days, and put in due date. What we have, for example, we define subject. We can define priority, for example, and say that this priority is high. So again, we choose drop down, and the data privacy priority is high. Also, we need to assign a user for this ticket, and we want to get assigned user is the same as for task from lead. So again, I zoom out and return a little bit from fields. Here we have fields from lead. I grab assigned user and input it here. I can again use select operator, get entity attributes, grab lead record, and input it here. But I'm too lazy to use more operators, so I'm just returning back to where I already used this. So we define assign, type, due date, and maybe we define, let's say, one more field, for example, requested by. Let's say that is text, for example, I don't know, send automatically, and so some constant text we put here. And again, in the same way, we are going to save our entity, save data privacy ticket, the same way as you do in Sugar. When you change something, you want to save it. And again, we want to link to each other lead record with this data privacy record. So I remove two box for now and zoom out and return to the beginning. You may see how our logic looks like for now. So we grab our lead. Sorry, I need to grab a lead and put it as object, and to lead we link our data privacy. And again, it is the only one relationship that we have with these two modules. So let's actually, that is all about building our logic. Let's return here, and I say that again we send an email address to external email verification service, handles the result, and checking this result whether it's valid. We immediately send a request to consent to our lead and open a data privacy ticket. And if result is not valid, if it's catch-all or invalid or what may be more, we create a task to manager to manually handle this situation. Now we build our logic, our scheme, and actually this logic calls it a flowchart. It's some kind of name. So this flowchart do all our requirements, and now we need to input this into Sugar. How we can do this? In flowchart section, here first of all we should save this flowchart for future possible modification and so on. So in save flowchart, I need to input the name of it. For example, let me think some name like check email, for example. But it's better to give a good name, not this which means everything. But for example, let's save it. And then in generate Sugar package, we click on generate. So now we have a usual Sugar package that can be installed into your Sugar. For this, we return to it, go to admin section, and as any other Sugar package, we download it through module loader. We choose File here. Here it is that we all just created, and click Upload. And after it, we click Install and commit. Installation process may take a while, so let me just explain one more thing about working with your logic in Logic Builder. So let's return for a while. So we already saved flowchart this logic for further working, further modification. And in load flowchart section, there are all flowcharts that you already done. So when you want to return to something, you select this, click load, and it will be outputted in your working space. So you will be able to bring some modifications, change something. Like for example, if you want to change the subject of task, we simply open this flowchart, change something here, save, generate package, return to our sugar, and remove previous version of this flowchart and install a new one, and that is all. So we already installed this package. Let's try to check how it works. So we need to create a list. Let's go to the list and create a new one. For example, I input the name and the last name, and here we want to input an email address. For example, let me choose this one. It should be okay. So let's put save, and let's open our lid and see what happened. So we have a task here. That means that this email is not okay. So let's open it, and we see that we have a task to check email manually, assigned to manager who assigned to lead. And in description, we see that address was defined as invalid. And now I can see why, because I mistyped here. It's not this one. It must be app. So let's create one more lead with normal email address. Let's create it, and let's type me. Okay, I believe for now it should be okay, email. So let's save and see what happened. We have a data privacy ticket. So according to our logic that we already done, we said the email was verified as a valid. So we immediately sent a consent to email address, and we have an open ticket and manager can work with this ticket. And for example, if after 30 days it won't be any consent, he can in work log type some result and work with this and perform a further steps that needed to be done in order to gain consent or remove this email address as non to send emails. So we saw already how it works, and let me return to this one. No, just sorry, what? I just want to open. Thank you. So what we used today, of course, it was sugar, and in order to configure this sugar, I use Logic Builder with small extension templates for composing HTML template, and also I use external email validation service. How my work as Sugar admin looks like with this configuration tool. So I receive my task and evaluate it. Then I go to this configuration tool, build this logic, configure it. Then I build a Sugar package and finally deploy it into Sugar and have a solution. You may pay attention that I said that this is already a first practical session. Also, I didn't say in details about sending email, about HTML templates, because it was the theme of our past webcast. So if you are interested in, please visit our website and watch other sessions. And what in result you may see the configuration we can configure without knowing programming language, and it's easy to use because it's in cloud service, so I do not need to install something. I can access anywhere and anytime I want to. And we made it on the fly thanks to intuitive LB logic builder design. So thank you all for watching. I see that some of you have some questions, but we run out of time, so we obviously answer your questions. And if you have one after this webcast, please contact us in any convenient way. If you think whether Logic Builder suits you, also please write to us in any email you want. And hope to see you soon, guys. Bye bye.